I can remember going to Sunday school here with my grandmother in 1940. Harry Hooper always picked her up after my grandfather died in 1939. They lived in View, and her name was Mattie Satter. I guess the history of the families is important to me.
I went to church here in the 40s, big congregation here, and had very good services here. I went to the old school here, just up by our territorial ground. We didn't have room to have Christmas plays or anything, so we came here to the museum to use the stage for our plays for Christmas and that. I can remember that. When we went to church here, we knew each other very well. We loved each other very much, and this is what I'd like to see again.
My favorite memories are the early ones when developing, because we would come here, meet in the basement with a dirt floor, a wood stove. Some of the men would come early and build a fire in the wintertime so we would be warm for our meetings. Each one of those boards that you see were taken down, sanded, refinished, and put back in place. To me, that was amazing that volunteers would take the time to do that.
2 years ago, I'm empty nester and I needed something to do, something that I could invest in my community. My family history goes back to 1918 here. So both my great-grandparents and my grandparents went to church here. I'm on the committee to put together the 110th anniversary, which would have been September 25th, 2020. But because of the pandemic, we decided to put everything off. There were a lot of earmarked years and special celebrations that were supposed to happen. So we weren't able to do that. And when I was thinking about, well, what do we do for the 110th? We can't just drop it. I got the idea of a year to commemorate. So we have through our website that's being put together right now, we have newsletters, we have a Facebook page. We can still keep the celebration alive just from a distance, right? Why don't we weave it into the story? Because what do? We archive history here.
There's just a lot of things that we had planned, and then of course this celebration of the church was a really big thing for us. So we're going to be highlighting this for the next year until we can do this again next year in September when it was dedicated.
This building was about ready to collapse. If we hadn't done the renovation, we had a heavy snowstorm the year following the time we put the new roof on the building. I'm convinced if we had not done that restoration of the roof, that the building would have collapsed. I think it's fascinating for young people to be able to see the equipment that loggers back in the early 1900s used out in the woods.
Well, I'm a logger's daughter, so I really like the logging part. I learned a lot more about the Native American things than I ever knew. I knew that we had Native Americans in Shalachie Prairie area because that's where my parents' home was. We have a map that shows in more detail Native American trails through Clark County. It's fun for people to come and see if they were close to one. And I found out my house sits right on a trail. I did not know that.
Well, I think our post office exhibit over in the corner there is really good. It talks, because that's how Amboy started, was when Amos Ball came and put in a petition for the post office. He started the post office. And we've got the post office front with all the little windows in it like they used to have where you'd come and get your mail. So that's very interesting.
We have an old machine shop over here on site, and it was all old belt-driven machinery. So I've gotten involved with that, and I'm sort of heading up that project, which kind of goes in spurts, The generations change, their interests change, So all of these old things that are over 100 years old, and the building is over 100 years old, you get 20 and 30-year-old people now, their interests are running down a different road than ours are. We need to have activities where the younger people can get involved and tweak their interest a little bit more.
So we're keeping our social distance, and the building's big, You know, people can spread out, and we could have 1 or 2 other volunteers doing things.
There just seems to be a generational gap, you know, and one of my big values is linking the generations. And I don't want the baton to be dropped. I actually want to try to use the pandemic to bring families in for personalized tours, maybe weave them into history lessons,